We already knew McIntyre and Roman were staying on their respective shows. We knew that already. We figured the women's champions, we didn't really get into them, but we figured they were staying on their shows too. Those are the 4 guaranteed people that were staying on their show. When it was rumored that Rollins was going to go to SmackDown, I was heavily against it only because they always put Roman and Seth together. They're married.
What's up, guys? Y'all already know what it is. It is the Backstage Brawl. I am your host, as always, the Golden Child, along with our usual suspects. We have Kid Ty. We have the Diamond Cutter. We have the People's Champion, looking with the glistening championship, bringing you the wrestling news of the week, wrapping it up. And we're going to kick it off with SmackDown. The draft has some, it came and went. Part 1 on SmackDown. Stephanie McMahon mediated the entire thing. And a lot of moves with that little small draft pool that they gave us in the middle of the week. And basically the biggest talking point amongst all of it, we're going to get into the Seth Rollins of the world, the AJ Styles and all that things. But the New Day splitting up. Guys, we had our different theories of who would split up, who would go to this brand, that brand, if they were to do it. And now you see Big E staying on SmackDown, Kofi and Xavier coming back, winning the tag champs, heading to Raw. What's your thoughts?
Let me preface by saying, I think it was like the last topic we touched back this past Tuesday about what might happen. I remember mentioning the fact that Xavier Woods had an idea of if one of them would stay on the show, but he would alternate. But the fact that it's just 2 of them on a show and Big E on SmackDown, there was some smoke to the fire to some of those rumors. And it also shows the fact that Vince McMahon is really, really high on Big E. How they executed that was perfect. Shout out to Xavier Woods coming back after a very debilitating Achilles injury.
Yes.
And once again, being a tag team champion, I hope that he could be, stay on longer and be healthy.
It's been the week of Achilles returns, too. Ember Moon, start of the week, you get the Friday night with Xavier Woods. So
yeah, so this is a big opportunity. So, they're really high on Big E. So this is a big opportunity for him. He's definitely ready for the moment. It's just the fact that he sold the moment. We've got a lot of genuine moments this year, and that was one of those moments where it's like, I'm glad it was on SmackDown because Raw, you know how Raw be doing it. But it was great to see that Big E was able to give us another genuine reaction that we can basically hold memorable to this year.
it was a meme-worthy moment. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was like he played it perfectly to a T. I had to catch it on the rewind, and I just saw the picture first. I didn't have no explanation. It was just everywhere. Everyone already captioned it. I was just like, why is Big E, what's going on? And then I see him versus Sheamus. They had a fantastic match, and I'm thinking maybe it's going to come here. Then later on, you see New Day come back, and you're just like, oh, what? And then they go back into a tag team title match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. You're thinking, all right, well, they just came back. They may just lose this and then go, oh, shit, they won. Oh, shit, Stephanie's out. Oh, snap, they're disbanded. And then you just kind of see it like that. So it was awesome. Big E, what's your thoughts on it?
All right, so we booked this last episode, and the way that I booked it was that Kofi would go on his own, and Big E and Xavier would be the ones to stay on SmackDown. Being that Big E was going to get this singles push, we all knew it's coming. We all knew that, Vince is high on Big E or whatever the case may be. And Xavier would be basically his backup, his manager. Even though we know Xavier can go in the ring, it's still an interesting dynamic, and Xavier is very wildly underrated on the mic. A lot of people don't talk about Xavier on the stick. But they did the total reverse. They kept Big E on SmackDown and Xavier and Kofi just minutes after they won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, shipped them to Raw. Now, here's the interesting dynamic to a lot of people's worries. At Raw, we already have tag team champions. We have the Street Profits. Now you're bringing in, Xavier and Kofi into the mix, who just are riding high off of a SmackDown tag title win. So now you have two sets of titles in the same division. What are you going to do? You got one or two options. Either the Street Profits are going to go jump ship and go to SmackDown, or they're going to unify these titles and Street Profits are still going to SmackDown. Either way, Street Profits are going to SmackDown. I think that they've found value in the Street Profits as a company, and being that they found value in them, they're the ones that are going to go to the primetime show, the one that needs more of the ratings, which is on Fox.
Yeah.
But unifying the titles, I mean, even though I said that this is something that they were thinking about doing, this is something that now it looks like they are definitely going to do. As far as the moment goes, I mean, they sold it perfect. They hit it right in the feels of every wrestling fan. And it was just like, it was such a great moment. You're happy that Xavier came back. You see Kofi come back. And then Stephanie comes out and was like, congratulations, with the next pick in the draft, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, you guys are going to Raw. And they're just looking, they're confused. It went from being genuinely happy to just being like, whoa, wait a minute.
You know what it was?
What about E?
First off, that was some Simba line.
Oh my God,
stuff.
Was it? It was like watching The Lion King.
Get up!
Yes. It was that exact moment. It was like, she was like, say E's name. You didn't say E's name.
Oh man,
the next pick,
it was fantastic.
Then the very next pick.
And you know what? It was honestly, it was a fusion between that and like VMA's 09 with like Taylor Swift when she won that award. Stephanie was Kanye. She just came up on stage. I'm gonna let you finish, but y'all motherfuckers be out. Not in like E, you stay, but y'all out. And you're just like, wait, what? I just won in this award. Celebrate this with my homies, 7-time champs. Y'all just gonna do this to us? You gonna do this to me? On some Denzel stuff. So it hurt. It definitely hurt. And
those guys have been together almost nearly a decade. It's like, wow.
I'll say this much, because we did book, and I think we were all unanimous in the whole realm of like, Kofi Kingston. He's the go back to being the singles competitor that you were before. Have Big E still be the singles competitor, but have Xavier Woods as like the person kind of, a little along his side. So it's an interesting thing to see that they made that switch. Good time.
Hold on, my fault. I was going to say one more thing before I tag in Ty real quick. Just for anybody who really didn't really peep, the one thing that I do like about Kingston coming to Raw, even though he was supposed to go anyway in my booking, Ali called him out on Twitter. I liked that.
Get up. Yeah.
You didn't see that, did you?
I saw that. No, I saw that.
No. Randy looked genuinely surprised when I said that.
Yeah.
Ali called him out on Twitter, and like he put the graphic up of when the graphic of Kofi and Xavier going to Raw.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hello, Kofi," and nobody understood that. And I'm like,
that on Instagram too. Yeah.
No. See, that flew over my head. Like I saw it because that wasn't the only person he went after this week. So I was like it definitely flew over my head. Like
it went over your head because remember, Ali was supposed to get his push. Kofi got into the chamber. The rest is history from there. This is why I wanted Kofi to go to Raw. But go ahead, go ahead, do your thing, man.
Tying the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. Damn.
Nah, man, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, I don't know how I got muted there. I wasn't saying anything anyway, so it fit the gimmick.
Yeah.
But what do you call it? One of the things that's interesting, you brought up the fact, I just want to add this anecdote because everybody kind of touched on everything that you wanted to say. But in the case that I think this is interesting because in the history of the New Day, one of the biggest talking points about the New Day was the different dynamics of the New Day. Which tag team are you going to face that night? How they can rotate their 3-person roster of, who's going to do what. So now that we've had an official split in the New Day where it's only Kofi and Woods, I think that's actually pretty interesting for a number of reasons. But I think one of the big points that I want to see going forward is how does this affect not so much the group, but how does this affect Xavier Woods? Because when you think about it, Xavier Woods in the past has been hinted at being the weak link. And there was a point in time where he proved himself to be a valuable member of the New Day from an in-ring standpoint, not just from an entertainment and promo standpoint. And it's interesting to me because Xavier Woods, for the past couple of title reigns, has sat on his couch due to injury. And now he has a chip, right? They won it in a surprise fashion. Can Xavier Woods and Kofi under this dynamic outlast the rest of what Raw's tag division could be? That to me is kind of interesting just because of the fact that like Big E has had to help carry a lot of these tag reigns, which would fit into his dynamic on SmackDown of like him constantly trying to prove himself. Will we see a change in Xavier Woods now that he has, like, it's just him and Kofi? There's no one else to rely on. We know Kofi can do it from a storyline standpoint because he's literally the veteran of New Day, right? But for Xavier Woods, now it's really his chance to prove himself, not only because he has to come back from injury, but because a couple of his tag title chips have come with him not being involved in the mix. So I want to see how that works on Raw as well, just as an added point.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And like stepping out of shadows is basically the theme of this draft. You get the sense of it. Another tag team that was split was Heavy Machinery. Otis will be, remaining on SmackDown. Tuck will be on Raw.
Bullshit, man. Bullshit.
Go ahead, man.
I'm not gonna rant on it, but it's just like one of the themes of the past couple episodes has been us wondering what the fuck's going on with Otis. And it seems like everything they built at the beginning of the year has been ripped to shreds little by little every single week. I mean, you have the opportunity to try something new. Don't get me wrong. This could be a reset button, which is what drafts are supposed to be. Well, supposed to be, but I don't know, man. This is getting to. I wonder how Tucker's gonna bounce from this.
It's funny because like there's so much, again, going off of like the New Day dynamic and now Heavy Machinery. There's so much parallels between how Vince McMahon is grooming a person like Otis and and Big E. Like there's so much parallels there where it's just like here's a person who could potentially work on their own, and then you hear that the murmurs of Vince likes you backstage, and then you kind of see like a lot of those things of just trying to cater to them being a single star.
But is he grooming Otis? That's the thing. Is he grooming Otis?
But that
I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not saying that
I'm just laying the groundwork. I'm not giving you an opinion.
No, I mean like
the groundwork.
But the thing is like grooming Otis, like at this juncture, you could be right going forward, like off that. Like I know you're just saying a phrase, but like let's just use it for what it is, right? Grooming Otis in the Big E parallel. Like the thing is, I don't know if they're grooming Otis, and it's weird for me to say that considering he has a whole briefcase that would suggest otherwise, right? But like there in the time that we've had on SmackDown, I think it's kind of a shame that Big E has more of a case for us to believe that he's going to be propelled to the next level in the short amount of time he's been pushed in comparison to Otis having been one of the main focuses over the year. And the fact that he's been used this entire year, is great. The fact that he gets to be on TV and have an opportunity, but it's like, is it all for nothing if they don't actually do something with it? I know that eventually this split was going to have to happen if they wanted him to go after a singles championship, but it's like the way that it's gone, this weird slope, this weird path of Otis this past year, I don't feel that confident that he's being groomed. I feel like at this point, maybe Vince may have, based off of what we've seen, maybe Vince is just tired of having to deal with booking Heavy Machinery and would rather have Otis on his own.
It's People's Champ.
I slightly disagree with your sentiment, Ty, in terms of Otis, because I do think in terms of trajectory between him and Big E, for some apparent reason, like I know they scrapped it for now because like they basically crapped on it in this and the third. But for Otis, you're starting to see certain changes that are appeasable to the people backstage. You're starting to see his transformation as like physically, like over the last couple of months, even during the WWE bubble per se, he's lost a considerable amount of weight. You're starting to see him like get into the kind of physical shape that Vince McMahon would want in a character. Because obviously, you see the way you see how Vince treats people overweight, putting singlets and all that kind of extra stuff on. Otis is basically, if you've seen his Instagram, working with Chad Gable, he's really
I've been seeing it for a while. There's too much meat in that garage. There's too much meat in that garage.
Yeah, get it, Otis. Oh yeah.
Chad Gable could miss working out for 3 months and be in better shape than everybody. The way that they're like, it's scary. It's terrifying.
He's literally the same body type.
He's Kurt Angle Jr. But before like I want to finish my point because I know we have to move on.
Yeah.
With Otis, I do think that they're grooming him. They're grooming him. It may not be immediately right now because of his his current rise at the time earlier in the year, but I do think it's something more long term for them. And you start to see the results that's coming along slowly.
I could definitely see that. I'm just saying the way that things have been going, you can't really expect much out of me as a fan.
No, I get you.
But here's the thing. Again, to both of your points, and that's why, like at the very beginning, before Kid Ty, you made your point. I was trying to say, it's one thing for them to like I said, they're trying to groom him, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily correlate to benefiting in their something positive, more or less. They may groom him the wrong way. It's just like raising a kid. You may have a lot of attention on the kid, but it may not be in the right way. So I'm agreeing with you, but it's just the case of it's two sides of the same coin at the end of the day. But again, there's been more whatchamacallit draft situations. Of course, like we were trying to hope to God that Mean Gene wasn't right with this whole Seth Rollins AJ Styles situation, but through social media, Mean Gene has he has called it right down the middle. Not only did he call games,
he's gotta stop ducking the podcast though.
But
Seth
Rollins and AJ Styles switching brands.
It's a victory for him if you want to call it a victory, but I don't know if it's a long-term victory. It's like we were projecting the smart options or some smart options you can base off of this roster. He was going with what he calls it's not what Meek Man wants and all this other tired bullshit that for all intents and purposes we're just going to let me just be honest here. Gene, whose side are you on here? Is it about being right or do you want to be happy? Because the way I'm looking at this is kind of like what SmackDown went through the first time with Friday Night SmackDown, like about a year or so ago, where they stacked up the roster and didn't do shit with it. They took everybody who was relevant on Raw, put them on SmackDown, because this version of SmackDown is Fox's Raw, right? But all the main people they wanted, all the hype people they wanted, and then we got Braun Strowman winning the Intercontinental Championship. And God knows what was going on television for a couple of weeks outside of the first night with Becky and The Rock segment, and then the rest of the show was like weird filler. I don't know why you're so happy. I honestly don't know why you're so happy. I think you just wanted to spite Eric, to be quite honest.
Yes. Because do you not see the stress that is on my face? Okay,
I can't see your face.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it.
Let's talk about it. I do not like this whatsoever. I don't. And the more that I don't like it, the more I spite Gene a little bit. I really do. And not only that, it's like, okay, when we first started talking about this draft, because we booked this draft, at least the big time names we booked. We already knew McIntyre and Roman were staying on their respective shows. We knew that already. We figured the women's champions, we didn't really get into them, but we figured they were staying on their shows too. Those are the 4 guaranteed people that were staying on their show. When it was rumored that Rollins was going to go to SmackDown, I was heavily against it only because they always put Roman and Seth together. They're married. They're just, their characters are married. It's like you can't have one without the other. You gotta have Seth and Roman on the on the same show.
Now I said it's 2020. You can do whatever you want.
You gotta have, it's like you gotta have them on the same show, and you don't. The separation between the two has worked great for both of them. You don't need oh, we used to be in the Shield. Oh, remember we fought at Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Remember what happened last time that happened? Listen, let's keep both of them far from each other. They have great success without it.
I will say devil's advocate. I'll play the role of Gene here for this one. You have a situation where it's the Monday Night Messiah going
Friday night now.
Well, no. Like, here's the funny thing. I remember they did a similar thing with Booker T in 2004, where Booker T went over to SmackDown and he basically ripped the entire roster a new one and said, I don't even need to be here. I should be on Raw. And you got a situation where Seth Rollins is like, yeah, I was a Monday Night Messiah, eventually runs into Roman, and Roman goes, yeah, this is my land. This is not even my yard. What does he call it?
Well,
his island?
His island.
His,
apparently when they interviewed Rollins did his shtick, and he was just like, it was never about being the Monday Night Messiah, which was a lie. It basically, he just goes, it's all about the greater good. But then we find out, and then we find out later on, well, the next day, today, we found out earlier today, Murphy's been shipped off.
It was later on the show.
It was later on the show?
Yeah, it was around either 2 or 3. It was on the same show.
Okay, so then the Mysterios are now shipped off to SmackDown.
Which is a good
And now Murphy is shipped off to SmackDown. Yeah, but Rollins is there. And it's just like you gotta escape the marriage again.
I called it the law of Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Thou shalt not stay on same brand, or else in 3 months they gonna be like this. Son.
Although I am happy Ray is technically home. Although this is a very warped reality of home. This
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can appreciate that, but it's just. You gotta give them something else. I would have been okay if Murphy went to SmackDown and Rollins went to SmackDown. I'm still not happy about the Rollins thing, but at least you still carry over the Rollins and Murphy feud. That's eventually gonna happen.
Here's the thing with that. You know what? I got you. I'll play devil's advocate as well. Number one, the shirt that you're wearing right now, you have heel Roman. It's a completely different Roman that we've seen since the last time he's interacted with Rollins.
Right.
So that's 1. 2, the last time he was babyface, the last feud, we're not counting Goldberg, was with Baron Corbin. Foiling, his tracks along the way was Murphy. That's 2 there. They are both heel, Roman and Seth. They don't necessarily have to like each other because the last time they've interacted with one another, they were at odds. So it could be similar to a Jericho Triple H vibe in some early 2000s mess where it's just like, I don't like you. We fought last man standings, Hell in a Cells, all these different types of things. We're on the same brand together every single year. We'll be in a tag match once in a blue moon, but I don't still fuck with you. Like that's pretty much it. So you could still have that dynamic also kind of play off of that sort of
I don't know. It's so different now because it's like they know Roman is hot. Roman is scalding hot right now. So it's like they're gonna strike while the iron is hot.
I still agree with the notion.
Thing is, it's a different dynamic, and also because of the different dynamic, they don't have to interact like that. Because Seth Rollins.
It is a different dynamic, but it's like we're talking about it from a hypothetical standpoint. Like, let's talk about it from what's actually probably going to happen. Like, let's be honest here. Like, I would be a lot more for what you're saying, Jay. Nothing you said is wrong necessarily, right? But like these guys have been virtually tied at the hip for 8 years.
No,
since the Shield.
But here's the thing. Like, if we're going to use the Jericho and Triple H thing as an example, right?
Yeah.
Triple H and Jericho were on the same brand all the way up until about 2009, 2010, probably.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, it worked in that regard, but it was like they had the decency to put them in different divisions for a majority of their time there. You know, like Jericho would sniff
That's
Triple
what I was
H
about
every
to say,
once in a
too.
while, but they didn't interact with each other that much. If anything, Jericho was more so like a reliable, we can fit you into the world title scene and make it credible, like the Elimination Chamber situation, right? In this situation, unfortunately, I just feel like it's not like it can't work logically. It's just I feel like the freshness, like that new car smell of these two working together
So
and making it interesting is kind of worn off because it's like you've kind of played this card enough times even before they found their new gimmicks that actually separated them from the Shield. It's like even with the new dynamic, it still might come across as not that great because it's just there hasn't been enough room to breathe with these two.
And then the next thing too, before you make your next point,
Mhm.
are you gonna put Seth? The only way that I see this working is if you turn Seth face. Turn him face, and then what are you gonna do? Put him in the mid card?
Jane, go.
No,
You
Jane,
can't do
just-
that. No, I don't want that. I'm just saying, what are you gonna do with him?
I mean, that's not gonna fix it. Seth
Okay.
It's
turning
not,
face isn't
because
gonna
right
fix
now the IC title picture right now, Sami Zayn should run that for the next 2 months.
All right. So Roman's, what is Roman's motivation?
Roman's motivation right now
Titles.
is being at the head of the table.
Okay. What is Seth's motivation?
Seth's motivation is to do things for the greater good.
That's two different paths. That's two completely
Somehow,
Hey,
WWE logic,
you know what?
they're gonna make it happen.
I understand you. And we were talking about, oh, you know, you don't want hypotheticals, all that stuff. But here's the thing, Ty, I'm gonna come at you real quick. Because 5 minutes ago, you did say this to Mean Gene. You just say this to Mean Gene. What do you want to be? You want to be right, or you want to be happy?
I'm not saying that.
I'm just trying to say that. I'm just putting out there into the surface a scenario because
You're right.
Yeah.
That is a possibility, and that is a possibility that would make us happy.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is similar to how we would have been happy with a lot of different decisions. If you're going on, I'm going to come at you real quick because in previous conversations on this podcast, you've brought up what likely would happen. And when you put a lot of these same stars on the same brand like this, what likely ends up happening is that they end up being forced to interact because Vince panics and goes for what he knows is a draw. And every time and we've been proven in the past, logically or not, bringing the Shield together, not as the Shield, but just having those interactions that spark a little bit of nostalgia happen. I want to be happy. I would, and like I said, I never said your idea was wrong. I actually said it could work. What I'm saying is that the likelihood is that these two will interact, and it's probably not going to be what we want it to be.
I'm gonna just make note when I'm on this podcast with y'all, right? 1, 2, 3. When there's a popular opinion, I try to bring something different. That is it. It's not necessarily me trying to, X, Y, and Z. So the whole thing about me coming back and what likely is to happen is because I see the way it's going and everyone's going with this direction. You toss it this direction. Earlier in this,
and believe me, we are conscious of that. We were just taking what you said as the devil's advocate and saying that yes, it can happen. But unfortunately, when we all think outside the box and go with the opposite opinion, we get our dreams crushed too, and then we're not happy. But someone ends up being right.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Hell in a Cell match announcements. You got Sasha Banks, Bailey. And you got Roman Reigns, Jey Uso in a different spin. In a very, very different spin. Technically, it's like, last episode I was bringing up the fact that, or maybe the episode prior, I was bringing up the fact that maybe they need to do an I Quit match to some extent. And,
You did call it.
You called it.
Technically, I feel like I get half credit. It's Hell in a Cell.
I know y'all watching. Yeah.
And also on the other end, you get Sasha Banks and Bailey. Fellas, what do you think about it?
They watching.
I like the fact of, first off, before I even say anything, we got 3 cell matches or 4 cell matches. I'm not too sure of. 3.
It's not done yet. The building. It's not done.
It's Roman and Jay, Sasha and Bailey, and then Drew and Orton, I believe. Okay, so
What's the
that's
fourth?
what I was
What's the
thinking
fourth
about.
possible one?
I thought
Seth
it
and,
was
Seth and whatchamacallit,
No.
Ray.
Seth and Dominic.
Well, if
Seth and Dominic.
they already locked down 3, them going for a
Oh,
4th is asking for. It's already hard enough to have
nah.
different Hell in a Cell dynamics with 3. So
Three is good enough. I think I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm just gonna say this. Um, I'm gonna talk about all three. One, Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. This needs to be the last of the last between these two. This has to be be all end all because now we're getting ready to go into Survivor. This has to be all end all. Sasha and Bailey. I feel like they're doing this a little too early because it is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I don't want it to be for the title. I don't think it should have been for the title, but that's just me. This Hell in a Cell I Quit match. Oh my goodness. This is going to
Talk
be.
about it.
You thought Jey Uso got murdered last week. This is really going to be something. And then let's talk about the promo that Roman cut on Friday. Mafia style promo. The man sat there, just how Randy has his title, sat there with the title just sitting there on the table, sitting there looking like this, and he's just like, there's going to be repercussions. That's it. Like, I can't believe in 2020 has been such a weird year. I can't believe that I in 2020 is such a Roman mark. Like, I will honestly go on this podcast and say that I am a Roman mark. I am. I can't believe I'm saying it. But he's just nailing this character. It's just I don't own a Roman shirt at all. These are the 2 Roman shirts I've bought in I don't know how long. But he
bought it 2
it's just
days
like,
after it debuted. It was weird.
no, I pre-ordered it.
Like we didn't. The pay-per-view didn't even end yet. He was already on the website.
I was
buying
already
the
on the
shit.
SummerSlam website, like, yo, I'm buying this. I'm buying this shit right now. It was just, yo, I like this side of Roman Reigns, and then I like the dynamic of him and Jey Uso, and then Jimmy Uso basically getting into the mix, and it's just like now it's like, okay, this is gonna be a definitive. You have no choice but to bow down to me, because that's once that cell door locks, you have to quit. There is no your brother's coming to save you. There is no family. There's nothing saving you from this ass whooping. You're gonna get it. And the way that Roman's been looking in his matches, I'm scared. I'm scared for Braun Strowman next week.
Yeah.
I'm scared for Braun Strowman. Usually it's the other way around. I'm scared for him next week.
No, that's why you're my tag team partner. From now on, that's how you hot tag.
Listen, that's going to be the match of the night. That's going to be an A+ match. You heard it here.
I gotta say shit, me. Man. Eric, man, I love you.
I guess I'll go.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I heard about this, because I'm still late to watching it, but when I heard about the stipulation just off rip, and I do think this matters because for some people who don't watch the product regularly anymore, you'd hear this and be like, what in the universe mode is this? It's one of those stipulations when you read it, you go, what the fuck? But when you actually think about it, it's a really good idea. There's a lot of context that surrounds that would make you happy that it's an I Quit Hell in a Cell match. One of the first reasons that we brought up a couple episodes ago was the fact that the past couple Hell in a Cells, the marquee Hell in a Cell match, like the main Hell in a Cell matches they wanted you to get invested in, ended off some BS stipulation. So in an ironic fashion, WWE is making up for 2 previous Hell in a Cell pay-per-views because one ended in a disqualification due to interference, and the other one ended due to referee stoppage, which we all felt wasn't the right way for a Hell in a Cell to end, right? So now there's no excuses. There's no pinfalls. You could use a submission to verbally get your opponent to tap out like it's the mid-90s. Now you have to have a definitive winner. There's no excuse. This can be as gruesome as they want it to be. It can be as ridiculous as they want it to be. This can be similar to what we saw in the tag Hell in a Cell with Jey Uso, which he brought up on Twitter, the fact that he's been in only historic Hell in a Cell stipulations so far. And this could be one of the more gruesome Hell in a Cells in recent memory. if they trust each other enough to rip flesh, possible blood, or just all the welts, all the marks, it can be amazing. And the fact that it's an I Quit Hell in a Cell, you have to verbally give in to your opponent, which is what we saw in the previous pay-per-view match. Roman refused to stop until he was called the tribal chief. You couldn't ask for anything more. You rarely see a stipulation fit so perfectly into the storyline. Like, I don't mean like, oh, it can fit, like, hey, I could wear this hat. Like, no, fit like the glove was sewn onto that person's hand.
Yeah.
So that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. And you know what? It's like, not to say like going forward, but for like a good once in a blue moon type of match, like you could think, just again, the concept of a Hell in a Cell I Quit match. You're in the confines of a cell of which, you know, you're quote unquote not supposed to escape in some respects because they chain it, they lock it. So it's kind of like, you know, you can't escape your fate. You must face your fate, and you must like fight to like literally the death, you know?
And there's a lot to live up to because both Hell in a Cells and I Quit matches are known for usually being very gruesome.
Yeah.
Like we talk about the Hell in a Cell match, we've seen all the blood, we've seen fire, we've seen barbed wire set on fire, we've seen people fly off of the cell. But remember all the previous I Quit matches we had. I mean, like one of the ones
John
that pops
Cena
up in
and Randy had a
John
classic
Cena,
match.
and they did. Another John Cena classic was him versus JBL, which is
Yeah,
by
that's
far one of the most used thumbnails in wrestling video history on YouTube. Just John Cena's bloody face.
Yeah,
You know, like we've seen too many to count, and they always come with like packing a punch and someone walking out literally. Like, you know, commentary would be like, oh, they're gonna walk out a different person after this. Like literally, you walk out a different person after one of these two matches.
The
So
Rock and Mankind. Oh God.
it's like an unholy love child, this match, and this
And
hopefully
and
will
you know
be.
what I like about it? They don't do this match often. So when it's done, it's usually done right.
I trust them to get it done right.
So we gonna trust them to get it right. They have a couple more weeks to, you know, basically spice it up a little bit. Paul Heyman was dope with it, you know, like the production team with the production package was dope. Of course, Jey Uso as usual doing his thing, and of course Roman Reigns. So definitely looking forward to that. Wednesday Night Wars, NXT AEW. You know, NXT had, you know, a big act to follow, a tough act to follow following, you know, 3-1. Rich Holland basically had his showing out versus Orny Loken and Danny Burch. Unfortunately, suffered a gruesome injury, but that was basically the biggest takeaway. AEW, of course, 30 years of Jericho, and of course, Cody Rhodes' title. You know, him regaining the the AEW TNT World title. Guys, what's your takes? Who did it better on Wednesday night? What were your takes on it? Like, take it away.
I'm gonna go with AEW for this past week. AEW. The 30 years of Jericho celebration. It of course focused around Chris Jericho. They could have done it a little better. I felt like one thing how I would have booked it, if I was Jericho, probably would have came out as all of my popular gimmicks. I would have did that because it's like 30 years of Jericho. We've seen all different versions of Chris Jericho, so it's like, show me 30 years of Jericho, literally. You know what I mean? A good touch though. I know a lot of wrestling fans have peeped it, but at the end of AEW when they were rolling the credits, everything was Chris Jericho. Director, producer, cameraman, everything was Chris Jericho. So that was pretty funny. I like that. But that was a pretty good show. I think AEW was the better show. NXT, we did see Ember Moon come back, and I'm very glad, as most fans are, to see that she is healthy and she is in the ring, moving very well, looking like she's due for another
Why is everybody wearing
championship run.
tights coming back?
Yeah, that's a
Is that
weird thing.
Is that the
Everyone's
new
wearing
thing
tights.
now?
Like nobody's wearing their original ring gear. It's like, okay, I'm just throwing these tights.
Help with the leggings. Man, but I agree. It's neck and neck with me, but I give the edge to AEW because of the fact that the bloody match that Cody had for the TNT title.
Oh yeah,
and the promo after.
Yeah,
the promo after. I mean, of course, Cody is at this rate, you know, it's commonplace for Cody Rhodes to have that, you know, that fire and desire on the mic in AEW. But that promo after saying like, hey man, like, you know, I live for this, you know, 30 years strong. I live for that. I was like, damn, bro. Like,
he's starting to sound a little bit more like Dusty. that kind of scares me a little bit.
He's sounding more and more like his dad.
Get rid of that lisp. Like you hear, like when he yells, you hear Dusty, that octave. Like you, the spirit of Dusty took over. Like when you go to Sunday church and the Holy Ghost, it was the Holy Dusty that was in Cody. But aside from that, Archer and Moxley had a very good promo coming into next week. I'm very interested in seeing what happens next week in that match because I like how well done it was. You know, it was great camera work by the crew.
They like, you know, they used whatchamacallit, their feud from NJPW earlier on in the year, basically tied it into now. So like Dean Ambrose is like, or John Moxley is like, it's still
continuity.
It is still rough. John Moxley, you know, basically having that promo at the bar, he's like, hey, listen, you know, he put a number on me back in New Japan. You know, he put a number on me, but you know, next week, you know, it's gonna be hell to pay. And then like he finishes a drink and he just says, everybody dies. And
makes me wonder, is it leading to more, we're gonna hear more New Japan references as the rumors continue to fan the flames of, like, you know, New Japan has new management and they really do want to do a partnership between the two. So
yeah. And they've been making calls between AEW, I believe Impact is also in that little.
Yeah, Impact is in there too.
They're trying to work that in. So like, you know, New Japan's, you know, they putting their sprinkles. They're putting their sprinkles everywhere. Definitely AEW having like a lot of different varieties. And also, you know, the tournament, the announcement of the tournament, you got, you know, Hangman Page and Omega as single stars inside of the tournament. And we're going to be seeing that dynamic, you know, come to fruition. And you can just see how their characters have progressed. And of course, Kenny Omega, as you see. So a lot of things have been developing and you know, treading upward, especially leading up to, you know, next week, of course, 30 years of Jericho. And I believe the celebration next week for AEW. So definitely it's been some special.
The 1 year anniversary, definitely next week on the 14th.
Something special. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. Anything else before we move on about AEW NXT?
Well, regarding next week,
yeah.
I know me and Randy agree on this. I don't know how you guys feel, but Archer should definitely be the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion.
Yes,
coming into next week. I'm going for that, and I'm calling this now, but I see that Cody's going to be facing Orange Cassidy for the TNT title.
He gonna kill him.
Yeah, I'm looking for a heel turn from Cody. Maybe not next week, but I'm starting. Let's start planting some seeds on it. He changed the hair up, you know. Even though, yeah, he cut a fiery promo.
I'm not going to change. And then next week he changes anyway. Yeah,
a true babyface, you know, esque promo. But it's just, you know, they need something different. And then also the interesting part, MJF, you know, is cutting a promo where we might see if anybody turns, it might just be Chris Jericho.
It's a double
MJF, might see a double turn. Who knows? But those are interesting dynamics.
Take the inner circle from him. I'm saying it right now.
We'll see. We'll definitely see. A big topic of the week. I attribute this to People's Champ. Wrestlers unionizing. Like of course, like that's been a big, you know, thing over the past couple of months, especially with, you know, contract disputes. Wrestlers trying to get, you know, their funds elsewhere, outsourcing, whether it's through, you know, Cameo or those other different outlets, streaming. What are our thoughts about this? You know, because, you know, actually, People's Champ, it's your thing. I'm gonna let you loosen the reins. Take the keys, brother. Take it away.
There was like a podcast like 3 weeks back, before Vince was talking about the Twitch situation. Shout out to Jobber Tears, Sir Wilkins. He they spent their podcast basically talking about the issue of the third party situation, of them getting their funds in a third party. And what he promoted was the fact that, you know, since some of these wrestlers are actors, you know, they can basically apply under the SAG union, the actors union. So they basically get medical, dental, the whole nine. They have insurance, because everyone knows, it's not a secret in professional wrestling, you don't have insurance unless you're the highest paid person. You know, you don't have much benefits or perks going with you. Only a few professional wrestlers during the time has had that kind of package. Andre is one of them. Hulk Hogan's another one when he became an actor back in the day. Rock, obviously, Austin. Those kind of guys have had some form of perks that went along with their WWE contract when they became, because once you're an actor, you're automatically with the SAG, with the actors union. So those benefits already kick in automatically. But not a lot of people don't, which is why, you know, when it comes to, you know, wrestlers always getting hurt and not having enough money to fund it. Hell, Mick Foley never really quite acted in anything, and people had to raise money so he can get his hip replaced when he was doing DDP yoga. So basically what they were proposing on the Jobber Tears podcast is basically those guys applying for a union. Remember, to wrestling fans around the world, many years ago in the 80s, Jesse Body Ventura, he wanted unionized professional wrestling. And Hulk Hogan was basically a whistleblower. You know, he basically went to Vince McMahon and spilled the beans, saying, you know, Jesse's trying to unionize and get people to come against you, which is not really the truth. He basically wanted to unionize so that everybody can get benefits. And we all know professional wrestling, since its inception, is basically it's a carny business that made it to the mainstream, excuse me. So paying people what they're worth and giving them benefits is kind of a hard thing. So no matter what promotion it is, even to this day, they still go by those carny-like rules. And for the biggest company in the world, WWE, you know, it's known the fact that, you know, you get hurt on company time, you get paid a certain amount of money, you have to fund your medical expenses on your own. So basically you're asked out. So even now, recently online, if you've been following Paige on Twitter, she's been advocating for unionizing. And we all know Paige is she's a person not to give one fuck of what anybody cares about what she thinks. She's gonna go for it no matter what. And for the fact that she has that mindset in terms of unionizing to get benefits for professional wrestlers, it's needed. Because at the end of the day, like, no matter what way you slice it, and it's not just WWE, because I know a lot of people are shitting on WWE for that, but a lot of other business practice the same exact things to cut corners. And I understand that. But at the same time, like, you have these independent contractors who are under your company, they don't have a lot of benefits when they're out. So when they have to go do, like, extraneous amount of things, like, one of the best jokes I heard, like many years ago when they were cutting on ass on Shawn Michaels, he was on the Playgirl magazine. He's like, I need the money. Like, he said that live on Raw. They basically made a joke on that, saying, you know, he did a Playgirl issue because he needed the money. This is a guy who, in 1996, was a WWF champion. All the fame in the world, you know, in terms of that bubble, and wasn't paid a lot of money. It wasn't until Nash and Hall went to WCW and completely changed how wrestlers are paid. So that started the movement in terms of wrestlers getting paid more, so they can have enough money to fund their own medical expenses. And then now, like, and that was over 25 plus years ago. We're now in 2020. You know, it was 24 years ago. So yeah, we're now in 2020. The needle hasn't moved much since then. Sure, they're paid more now, but still the perks are not quite what they need to basically sustain a sustainable life. Because, you know, every little thing that you make, a percentage of it goes to Vince McMahon. So what can you take home? You know, like, I'm not trying to dive into my personal life, but father's a cab driver. You know, like, any money that he makes for the yellow cab goes directly to the city. So whatever he takes home, it's chump change. So when you have to do a certain amount of things in order to kind of get on by, it's like you're getting grip. It's like you're working for free, essentially, and it's not fair to these professional wrestlers, and I know that this is something that they want to pursue. And I'm for unionizing. And they have to, and this will be a better, this will be a way if they do unionize doing going for the actors union, they can get all the benefits without Vince McMahon having to do so much paperwork. Like, it can work both ways if you were able to work that way. Because in that way, if you're independent contractors and you're with the union, SAG, getting your money this and the third, you don't have to pay for medical insurance that way. Because we all know Vince is not going to basically do, it's a headache doing all that paperwork, having them as legal employees of your company, having to shell out so much money that you're intaking per year to pay everybody that's in your company, from the guys that set up the ring, that does the production, that does the cameras, who perform in your ring, who basically write for you. All different jobs in professional wrestling. It is hard, but let's not all demonize like Vince or any promoter as well, because they do, in their, like, depending on the person, they do find ways to shell some money to help with your medical expenses. Harley Race, for one, before he passed away, Vince was paying for his medical expenses. So it's a hard situation and a lot of legal stuff, but that's one way that if they do want to shelf some money and make more money that way, or outside the WWE, without WWE getting a huge piece of it with your name on it, just apply for the Actors Union where you're protected, where he can't really come and take money out your pocket.
Yeah, well said. And honestly, it's something that I feel like, has been thought of for a while, like, especially as a kid, you're assuming that, when you're famous, especially if you're a wrestling fan as a kid and you see like all these famous wrestlers, you're assuming that they're basically being taken care of, whether it be plane or this or that, what have you, which is why when you see them in airports or things like that, it's like, oh, this must be like a one-off type deal. It's like, no, these are their lives. They're just as regular. They're basically, their amenities are not being taken care of, and they have to go about their days as just as regular people. So, and honestly, I couldn't have put it better myself, guys. Anything else you would like to add in onto that?
No. Randy pretty much explained everything on my end.
I think the only thing you really can say is you want to see, with a lot of the issues that the talent go through, where they feel like they're being chipped out of money or chipped out of certain things, and you could talk about the employee versus independent contractor, all the air quotes in the world, like how they're treated, right? I think at the end of the day, to what Randy said, even if you're not going to go for SAG or this and that, you need to be ahead of the curve and stand up for yourself. You need to go. It's similar to like in college when you're looking for internships, right? Like, you can get into college and do your own thing and focus on one track, but if you're not keeping your eyes and ears open to other opportunities that can help you along your way, you're doing yourself a disservice. A lot of the talents, you hear them talking to insiders and giving wrestling news websites like their frustrations anonymously and stuff, right? And rightfully so, you want to like blow some steam and express yourself, but like, if you really want to make a change for yourself, you're going to have to take that initiative and take a risk and hope that it will help you in the long run if you're unhappy where you're working. And that's not just for WWE, that's for other companies too. You have to take that initiative and try to benefit yourself, even if the people that you work for and you're loyal to aren't going to do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, that honestly, that was a fantastic convo. I ain't gonna lie to you. Because for all intents and purposes, I could say for the Backstage Brawl and for a good percentage of wrestling fans, we would love for the wrestlers that we love and care for to be taken care of by any means necessary. So, much respect to that. Real quick before we go, of course, Monday Night Raw is 2 days from now. That's part 2 from the draft. You're one guy that you want to see move from Raw, SmackDown. We got 3 of you guys here. One guy. Well, or either you could go Raw, SmackDown, or Raw. Or predict.
I'm gonna take Andrade going to SmackDown.
All right.
MUE. This is not the quick picks. I'm joking.
Nah, yo, he took it.
You can pick the same one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, man. Go
It
unanimous.
could be a unanimous.
I gotta be different. Oof.
No, you don't.
I wouldn't be surprised with an NXT call up.
I said that last week. Ty wasn't here for that, but then I didn't see anyone from NXT being drafted. Maybe we might get surprised. There's only 2 nights of this.
A package deal.
But the thing is, like, of course, like you see they have the draft pools from night 1 and night 2. So, I don't know if they will be available. So it who knows?
Just went back to NXT because she's no longer with Retribution.
Yeah.
So I probably might think Johnny Gargano might be on the way up because there's nothing left for him to do in NXT. He'd probably be a SmackDown superstar. There's a lot more for Candice to do, but for Johnny, he's exhausted everything he could do down there. So
that dude has been hiding on NXT for 2 years.
he's doing production and everything.
He has been hiding. He's like, I don't want to be seen. Kid Ty, you got anyone on night 2 that you would like to see pack up bags, move to a different brand?
I actually don't, to be quite honest with you. I'm kind of like in a state of indifference with the draft and how it's been done and like how talent move around, because I kind of feel like at this point, I don't know what would be the plan going forward or what they could do, because like I could sit here and say like we in the the group chat that we have, I mentioned some of the people I'd like to see moved, right? And Andrade was one of them, and there you have the whole like relationship rule. Like if you're in a relationship with one person, if they get moved, they got to go to, backstage, which is why Andrade got moved last year. And, Aleister Black and Selena Vega are on the same shows all the time and this and that. And it's like, when I take some of those into consideration, I take into consideration the fact that a lot of things change in WWE, and it's not just a gimmick. Like a lot of plans change so quickly, like last minute. It's tough. It's really tough for me to pick something. So, for me, the only thing I don't want to see on Monday, which is what I've seen the past 2 years with the draft Friday, and last year, is the whole we're gonna draft somebody to the show that's already on the show. Like I'm kind of tired of the whole clean slate narrative where it's like, oh, we have no roster anymore, and now we're gonna just like Becky Lynch was on Raw and they drafted her to Raw. It was like, why did that happen? Same thing happened with Drew and Roman on even though we expected it. It's like I would like a new draft system that would actually like entice me into thinking things can change like legitimately, because like if Andrade moves to SmackDown, it's like it wasn't that long ago he was there, right? AJ has been jumping back and forth between SmackDown and Raw for no reason. I was just like, just should kept his ass on SmackDown in the first place. Like there's been a lot of weird things happening. I hope one day, maybe in an extra or something, we could talk about how to fix the draft so that we can get proper draft moves.
Especially considering the fact that, like, just Stephanie McMahon coming out and saying, you go here, you go here.
And that's annoying in itself, where it's like, why are the McMahons coming out so selectively and not even on a tunny type thing? It's more so like it feels like an obligation at this point. It's like, oh, I guess we have to show. It's like, why can't y'all make your appearances matter more in these situations? I feel like the point being, I don't have anybody at the moment. We'll see what happens. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people who don't move and get announced anyway. And I'm sure there are going to be some weird moves that happen where we're just sitting there like what? So I'm going to say this. It'll be hilarious to me if Mandy Rose goes right back to SmackDown. I'd be laughing if that was the case.
I think they're
establishing a tag team with Dana Brooke.
I would like to see that happen. But the thing is, like, I think between some of the drafts thing that they did earlier in the year, some of the recent moves that they made, some of the recent rules that they made, where it's like a SmackDown star can appear on Raw 4 times a year, this and that. I just like, and for me, I don't mean to be the downer, but it's like they haven't given me a reason to truly be invested enough that I'd want to make a prediction, because I feel like no matter what I pick, I'm going to get a boot to the face, like some sort of Mafia Kane type big boot to the face where your whole neck flies off, because it's just tough. It's really tough. I wish they wouldn't have made all those weird moves earlier in the year. So I can't pick a person. I'm still mad Seth's here, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
It's like
yes.
you know what? You know who I want to move from one brand to the next brand. Wholeheartedly, I think it would be kind of cool to see what's his name? It would have been cool to have seen Swerve actually move, just because I know the rumor is that he was supposed to move, but like I would like no, actually not Swerve. You know, he could stay in NXT. I would like to see Akira Tozawa move. How about that? Like if Akira Tozawa could move and get a fresh start somewhere else, SmackDown, NXT, wherever, I would like that. I'm tired of him being a ninja. I actually like the idea of him and Apollo being a tag team because they've been a team before in the past in WWE and outside of it. I'd like to see some moves like that. You know, maybe Apollo to SmackDown or Akira to SmackDown, because I think at this point they both have done as much as they can over there. So
I miss them as a tag team. I ain't gonna lie. I you
don't believe it, man?
I'm gonna hold on.
Standing, yeah.
I'm gonna do this on the fly real quick,
Yeah.
because I know we were talking about this before we got on here, posing a poll, but I'm gonna do something very small because I saw this on Facebook. Wrestling fans out there that are gonna watch this, and I'm gonna pose the question to the floor too. What theme music is better? Batista's "I Walk Alone" or Kane's "Slow Chemical"?
Slow Chemical.
Fuck you for saying that.
Listen,
I'm not choosing.
Awesome. Batista's awesome. I
love Dave.
Slow Chemical.
I'm gonna tell you why it's Slow Chemical.
No, it's Slow Chemical. Like, there's no explanation why.
No, that's a
I'm gonna give you my explanation as opposed to the objective explanation. Okay, in both situations, they were remixes of their previous instrumentals, which were fire, right? And Kane's instrumental was already iconic, right? Here's the thing: Batista, for all intents and purposes, did not need "I Walk Alone." When you really think about it, you can make the case that Kane didn't either. But like, I'm going to say Kane actually did. I'm going to make the case that he did, and I'll tell you why. Because Batista's original theme song was already fire. Like, for a start-off instrumental, it was already fire. He could have kept that his entire career, and it would have worked. Kane completely reinvented himself when he took off his mask and came out looking like a half-shaven, demented freak zombie that didn't decompose all the way completely on Tuesday. Like, he looked completely different, and it warranted him having a completely different theme. And the fact that also is in the first Punisher movie, the fact that this theme song sounded like the original song times 50. The only disappointing thing about that was that they didn't use that version of Kane to his full potential, because that version of Kane could have washed the original version of Kane if they used it right.
Yeah.
Don't say it. No, Randy, you know it's true. Because when Kane took off that mask and looked like even more of a monster, because don't get me,
he was more mentally
traumatized.
Like,
he was more dangerous in that incarnation than any other incarnation.
Who would you be more afraid of? A person who was stronger and just like mentally stable, or a person who was unstable and just could wax people?
Think of it this way.
Mask Kane.
Think of it this way. You were afraid of Mask Kane, but you eventually found him cool. Especially in 2002.
He was the first person since Razor Ramon at the time to have a goddamn pit bull.
That's not even that's relevant. That's relevant to the cool factor. In 2002, peak Kane with the fiery singlet, all that, everyone found him cool. When Kane became even more demented, taking his mask off, you could not cheer for him. You were terrified. You were intrigued, but you were not on his side.
Just listen.
And that alone is my justification for why he would have been better than the original Kane.
Just listen to the lyrics.
Like,
you have to. It fits the character too. It was a hand in glove, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And for nothing else, on some hood shit, Bobby Shmurda was dubbed over that motherfucker. Why are we having this conversation?
I legitimately thought if they if they pushed that version of Kane the way they should have, he would have made Goldberg look like a bitch.
Slow Chemical, man. And he was stronger than Brock Lesnar around that time. We're not having this discussion. We're not. We're not having this discussion. It's
I love
Golden
it.
Child, Kid Ty, People's Champ.
But before we leave,
Episode 30 next
wait.
week.
yesterday was the 53rd birthday of Eddie Guerrero. So just wanted to say happy birthday to
Happy birthday.
Latino heat. I mean, for all of us, man, like for real, he meant a lot to all of us as children, and even as men now. We have a lot of reverence for everything that he's brought to us. So to the Guerrero family, happy birthday to Eddie.
Yeah, no, happy birthday to Eddie. Like, whatchamacallit, if we have more time, I would just say like favorite matches off rip, but I'm gonna just say that moment at WrestleMania 20. I'll never be erased from my mind. Never be erased from my mind. The match with Kurt Angle and at the end of the night with Chris Benoit. Just for that moment and that moment alone, that inspired my childhood so many different times. And I was just talking about yesterday with a bunch of cousins about how when we were younger, myself, People's Champ, and our older brother would be frog splashing in the middle of the living room. And then our grandma used to be like, hey, everybody. And we run upstairs and we put on our blankets not to get our asses whipped. And then we peek to see if she went downstairs. And then we do this shit all over again. So shout out to you, Eddie, lie, cheating, and stealing into our hearts. Respect. People's Champ, Kid Ty, Diamond Cutter.